by coming out publicly, you are essentially choosing exile.
You can say that, but at the same time, I think when a lot of my teammates, went into jail, it has also become more and more obvious that the CCP basically has all of our information, including mine. And so there are a lot of people in Hong Kong advising me not to go back. Otherwise, I would be choosing jail time. But of course, I did consider whether I want to go back home to, be in jail. And of course, I wanted to do that for my friends, to be with the people I love and to be in the city I grew up in. But there were a lot of struggle, a lot of very depressing dreams, nightmares, and that kind of struggles. But in the end, I decided it's kind of more utilitarian for the movement if I stayed outside and if I can give a perspective that can really reflect what my peers are thinking of. So that's why I chose, the life of an exile versus the life of, being silenced or going home and serving jail time.
I remember, especially on, I think it was July 1st, 2019, when there was, the 2 million people came out on streets. Like we saw.
No, that was June 16th.
June 16th? Oh, I'm getting my days. Well, anyways, when we were there and we saw, families with their, little kids coming out, and just over the years we saw this really powerful civil movement growing in Hong Kong. And with the national security law and the heavy crackdowns, what has happened to that? Because it seems like there's the people in Hong Kong who are either arrested or I don't know what's happened to them. And then this movement of people like you who are essentially Hong Kong exiles. What has happened to that civil movement?
Yeah, I think basically it's a very difficult phase to be in. I can't even exactly pinpoint, where in history or where in the stage we're in right now. But people who are in Hong Kong, they cannot say anything anymore. They cannot organize anymore. But of course, there are still people who are trying, right, with relatively innocent approaches or very underground approaches that would get undetected by the authority. So, for example, in October 1st this year, which is the PRC Day that is celebrated with a sea of the PRC flags in Hong Kong, we would actually see photos of Hong Kongers destroying and vandalizing those flags. And even though it sounds like a very futile attempt, but still, it's kind of a signal telling people outside, oh, we're still here. We're still trying to preserve the movement and the spirit in a way. But of course, that sort of movement is now very underground. We don't really see the same sort of civic society from what we saw in 2019 or 2014. And for those who are outside, I think there are people who are just trying to settle down right now because objectively, we have all gone through a very traumatic period and people have to get used to a new country, which is really not easy to do, and it's very hard for people to find a new way of living that really can settle not only themselves but their family. So I think a lot of families and a lot of people who are in exile are still trying to do that, finding that balance. But of course, there's also a portion of people who have been settled already and are starting to pick up the political organizing again. So I think in the past year, in 2021, 2022, we really saw a lot of political organizations starting with, new advocacy agenda, with new initiatives, again, in an attempt to build a movement overseas, actually a movement in exile, because we're in exile. And the spirit of the Hong Kong society is also kind of in exile. So that is what's going on right now. So people are trying, to help think of new ways to talk about Hong Kong. That is not only about the 2019 movement, but actually about the strategic value Hong Kong holds in this U.S.-China strategic competition. And also people are trying to think of ways to, resettle the Hong Kongers who are fleeing from political persecutions. So there are a lot of different things going on and a lot of different ways that we're trying. But at the moment, I think we're kind of in the trial and error phase where people are just trying whatever ways they can and to test out if there are a way that we can eventually go back to Hong Kong. But right now, we're still healing from the trauma and, the tear gas, whatnot we have faced in 2019 and finding the way that one day we can go home. And I do hope I can go home someday and I can meet you guys there without the national security law, of course.
Someday we'll meet under the teapot.
Oh, just the pot.
Or the pot, they call it. Okay. Yes.
I missed this.
Because the
Lechko.
Lechko is shaped kind of like a pot. Like the building is like round, like a cylindrical building.
Okay.
Yeah, so there were people who were like making these cartoons and things about because a lot of people were anonymous, right, during the protests. So the idea is like someday everybody could take their masks off and meet each other under the pot.
All right, then, yeah.
So this period of time in 2022 kind of reminds me of when we went to Hong Kong in 2016. Because remember, we went there and it was 2 years after the umbrella movement and everything was really subdued and no one was protesting and everyone was super depressed or no one wanted to even talk about that, right? And then we were wondering whether that spirit of freedom was still alive. But it was so clear in 2019 that it had been there all along. It was just under the surface. But there was just too much political pressure going on to suppress it. And I know now the political pressure is way more intense, but I still also feel that there's got to be that feeling under the surface, probably very widespread in Hong Kong. There just isn't that opportunity yet to do something about it, nor do I know what that something people could do would be, because it's so much more dangerous now.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right with the observation. It's kind of the same mood from after umbrella movement because people fought really hard. They put their lives into it, but seems we were unable to change the tides of history. And that's why, on top of the political pressure, the risk of being persecuted is really the hopelessness and powerlessness that people are facing right now. And I think one thing that the CCP is extremely good at is to destroy the trust among people. And we're also seeing that right now. And I think that having that trust we built in 2019, the very, very genuine bonding being destroyed is what hurts people the most because, back in 2019, the mood of the society was everyone trusts each other. I was organizing with, the Anonymous Network. We did not even know of each other's names or faces. A lot of people actually thought I was a guy for some reason. And my anonymous profile was under a name called Random. So nobody knew who I was technically, but they trusted me with their lives and I trusted them with my life as well. But I think after 2019 and 2020, when people started getting, persecuted, then there would be scandals or talks around, who ratcheted out who, who's the betrayer of the group, that kind of talks going around. And that's when you see that kind of trust no longer exists. Now, when people are talking to me, when they're anonymous or when, I'm talking to someone I don't know, we all have to make sure, okay, this is someone who's trustworthy. We can, someone can vouch for them, that kind of spirit. So it really changed dramatically. But again, I think what you said was right, is that is the trauma and the depression from the movement, but it's going to heal. And eventually, I really believe we're going to see the city being alive with the spirit of freedom and with the yearning of freedom again. But of course, right now, people who are in Hong Kong cannot really say much or do much unless they have decided they can go to prison. But otherwise, even, letters coming out from prison, we can see very encouraging message and courageous spirits from people. But I think it's really a moment for everyone to let it sink in, to really think about what the hell happened. I think a lot of people are still digesting that. It's crazy. Yeah. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, oh, I can't go back to Hong Kong. I'm still trying to rationalize it and trying to understand what is going on. But I think we're just trying to get by, day by day. and see what is going on and how we can best really pave the path back home.